Hey traders, Akil Stokes here. Welcome back to another episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. Thank you as always for joining. In today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what I like to call the winning mindset. Now, this topic actually comes off of a little Twitter conversation that I've been having lately. And it's funny, the guy just wrote back to me, said it'd be interesting to see how the general public, or how, I guess the audience, I don't know if he said general public, it'd be interesting to see how people weigh in. And I kind of know how people will weigh in, but this is one of the exact reasons that we started the Trading Coach Podcast Facebook group. So if you want to weigh in on this topic, make sure you comment below this episode on the Trading Coach Podcast Facebook group. That way I don't have to go around to many different places to kind of get the input. And I would love to do a follow-up episode on it. I'll talk a little bit about what I think the results are going to be already. But this conversation started really on a completely different message, and we got kind of onto this winning versus losing mindset thing in the conversation that took place. But it started off on a video that I shared from my good friend and my trading buddy, business partner, Jason Greystone. It was a video he did about what is your income focus, and the same message we always preach about how the goal, if you want to ever progress in business, or if you want to progress, I guess, to the highest levels, instead of being income-based and profit-based, you need to be value-based, meaning you want to provide value. That's how you sleep at night. My opinion is that you should try to provide value in everything you do in life. And of course, if you can profit off of it, that's the win-win, because you do need money to live. And the first response started off of saying kind of that statement isn't necessarily true. The original statement said, people are broke because they are terrible with money or too selfish to serve humanity. Wealth magnetizes to those who provide the most value. The problem is people are living in scarcity and are trying to make a scarcity, and are trying to make a quick buck. And the response was, none of that statement is true. Wealth can also magnetize to those ruthless and dishonest enough to say, bomb, and murder other people. Is there value in that? Beats me. It's like, whoa, you went there. And, not to get too deep into this part of the conversation, but, just because people take bad acts don't mean that they don't provide value. Again, I don't want to get too deep into this, but, sometimes people commit acts and it's value, and they bring value to a certain group. It may not be a value that we agree with, but people that do things at the highest level typically do so in providing value. But again, not to dig too deep down there. But we'll go into a follow-up conversation. He says, I'm trying to point out that one assumes that people are not trying hard enough. I blame myself for years, making $10 an hour until I realized that the system is rigged. Slaves had food and shelter. Wages today leave hard-working people sleepless in their cars. And I completely disagree. I said blaming the system is just an excuse, right? In the time and age that we live in, especially in this time and age, right, 2020, right? Becoming successful is easier than ever, and there's no excuse for not achieving it. With that being said, we've been trained to think this way, so the first step is to free the mind. And I hope you guys understand that. I mean, look at what we have the ability to do today, right? With the internet, with the connections that we can make, with e-commerce and stuff like that. Right? Back in the day, there were very limited jobs you can do, right? You were either working on a factory, you were a farmer, right? Those were pretty much the two jobs you could do, and they slowly expanded away from kind of manual labor. There's so much you can do now with the internet, right? People are starting their own internet-based businesses, right? Me and my wife, we pay attention to this guy named, this kid, Ryan, right? Ryan's Toy Review, right? He just made $26 million, I think, last year off of a YouTube channel where he reviews toys and just does little games and stuff. So if you're telling me that, and there are many others like him, right? Kids and other people's doing stuff. If you tell me that it's not easier than ever to be successful in this day and age, then you have no idea what you're talking about. Now, keep in mind, when I say easy, I don't want to put it under the premise where it's like easy. Anyone, you can just pick up and do it, right? Success takes a few things, right? It takes time, it takes energy, it takes effort, right? You have to be good at what you're doing. And if you want to be at the upper echelon, you have to be one of the best at what you're doing. But what I'm saying is the ability to do something. I mean, we're no longer trapped where we have to do a certain thing. We have flexibility where you can literally take any dream that you have and monetize it. And that's what I mean by easy. And the guy says, but I still say, if you are a regular Joe working a job, you will not be paid what you're worth what your worth is. Again, many hardworking people can't make rent, and this is true. And I do understand that different people are in different situations, depending on where you're at in the world. There are different luxuries, but in general, I believe that anyone can be successful. Right? My good friend Jason Stapleton, and he's my trading mentor as well, once told me this great story at a simple statement: winners win. And what winners win means is it's just a mindset where it's like, I don't care what's going on in the world. I'm going to find a way to win because that's what winners do. And that's a mindset that I had for my entire life. And I think a lot of it is, my dad did a good job of raising me not to quit, not to fail, but also being involved in athletics, right? I'm currently watching this awesome playoff match between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans, right? The Kansas City Chiefs are the higher seeded team. They're the favorite to win. The Houston Texans are the underdog, right? Everyone thought they were going to come in and kind of get rolled on. And they went up 24-0 on the Kansas City Chiefs. And it brings me back to being on the sideline. I know exactly what is happening on the sideline in that moment. You have basically two choices. You can give up and quit. You can tuck your tail in between your legs and say, oh, they're up 3 touchdowns, 24 points. That's a big lead. Let's just give up and let them win the game. Or you can decide to say, F that. I'm going to fight. And we're going to find a way to win. And it just hit halftime right now, and the Kansas City Chiefs stormed all the way back. I believe they're up a little bit right now at halftime because they made the decision that we're not going to give in. These are the same decisions we have to make in life, guys. And I think this person sees me as this. He sees the successful side of me, right? He sees the trader, the trading coach, the one that has this public figure, and maybe he assumes that I'm looking down on people saying, "Oh, you peasants can't do anything," right? But understand where I'm from. Right? I wasn't dealt with a winning hand. Now, again, my hand wasn't the worst, but one of the things that I said is, hey, look, being black in America, raised in an urban environment, right? The system, right? This rigged system, this system told us that there were 3 ways to get out, right? Who knows those 3 ways to get out? Black, urban environment. What are your 3 ways? What were we brainwashed to think? Okay, well, 1, there's sports. Okay? Be good at sports. Make it to a professional league. All right? 2, be good at music. Become a rapper. Right? 3, sell drugs. Right? Sports, music, drugs. Sports, music, drugs. Those are the 3 ways. Those are the 3 ways I was brought up thinking that's how we get out of our situation. Right? Because the system is rigged against us. It's meant to keep people like me down. So that's the only way I can beat the system. I can't do it the honest way. So I thought. And as I went through life, again, I had a good father, I have a good family, right? And I had family members that came from similar situations and made it out, and they did a good job of leaving impressions on me and really steering me in the right direction. I remember I wanted to get into the music industry badly, right? That was my main focus growing up. I even had a record label at one point. And I have an uncle of mine who is a heavy figure in the music industry. And he steered me away from it. He said, don't do it. Get out of here. Right? So I had influencers like that helped kind of free the mind, gave me a different look on life. I remember reading a book called Decoded by Jay-Z. And when he was growing up, one of his elementary school or middle school teachers took his class, right? He grows up in New York, Brooklyn, in the projects, right? Slums of the slums. One of his teachers took him to her house, took the class to her house for a class trip. And he remembers that was the first time he saw like green grass, and there was a refrigerator that made ice. That was the biggest thing that stood out to him. Her refrigerator made ice. And it was at that moment for him that he realized, like, wow, there is more than what I currently know. I could be more than this, and this. There is another side versus what I just see here in the project. So it's freeing the mind, right? Not allowing us to, one of the reasons the system is rigged. And And I'm not saying the system isn't meant to, I'm not saying the system doesn't hurt certain people. It makes it harder for some than others. Don't get me wrong. That's 100% truth. But it's not, you don't automatically lose. Losing is on you. If you lose at life, it's because you decided to lose at life. If you decide to settle, it's because you decided to settle. Once you free your mind, you see that there's more. Now it's up to you to take massive action to figure out, well, how can I achieve that? And my response to the guy that said the regular Joe working a job that will not be paid what you're worth, right, and can't make rent. I said, again, that's just an excuse, right? Every one of my responses, stop making excuses. Stop making excuses, right? Because the first thing, and I work with a lot of people, right? When the first thing out of your mouth is an excuse, it's a mental problem. When you come with me and say, oh, I can't, well, why can't you? It's a mental problem. It's the shortcut. It's easy. It's easy to say why you can't. It takes effort to figure out how you can. Right? No different. I know this is a trading coach podcast, so to make this trading related, it's no different from you guys that search the internet looking for a magic system versus took the time, effort, and dedicated yourself to learning how to trade. One path, you have a much greater chance at success. Takes a little bit longer. A lot more frustrating. Maybe not a lot more frustrating, but it takes a lot more determination. Another side is that quick, easy fix. And there's so many people out there that I talk to in trading where it's like, oh, trading doesn't work. Why? Because it didn't work for you. Why? Because you looked for the shortcut and it didn't work, right? And they, instead of blaming themselves, they blame everything else, the market, the broker, whatnot. And this is, again, first thing, excuses, excuses, excuses. That is the losing mindset. The winning mindset is winners win. So I said, again, that's just an excuse, man. I said, if those hardworking people feel as if they aren't being paid what they deserve, there is an easy solution. Quit your job. Quit your job. I went to I don't think I released this podcast yet, but it's going to be in the hopper. Went to a TED Talk Circle event the other day where it was kind of the same situation about should salaries be public? With the whole thing kind of like people feel like they're not being paid what they deserve compared to some other people. And I said one of the things was that, hey, if no one's making you work this job, right? For all you guys that work a job, is anyone forcing you to? Right? You have the power. You can quit right now. If you're so pissed off that you're not getting paid what you think you deserve, show it to your boss. Quit. Put yourself in a better situation. Remove yourself from a bad situation and put yourself in a better situation. And I know the big thing, well, Keel, I just can't quit. Bills need to be paid. Yeah, I get that. I get that. But again, going back to my story, right, before just popular figure on the internet, trader, coach, right? I was someone that worked 3 jobs. One of them included cleaning toilets. You think I like that? You think I was being paid what I thought I deserved to clean toilets at night and work with special needs children? 2 very frustrating jobs? No. But I did it because I needed a way out. I knew that I wanted to get a way out. I knew that I wanted to eventually pursue something that I love, pursue something that would give me not only financial freedom, but freedom of time. But I couldn't just do it right away because you need money to live. So I said, guess what? I'm going to dedicate myself to doing something I don't want to do. I'm going to do it for a set period of time. I'm going to save my money. And when I am in a financial situation that is good enough, then I'm going to go about taking action and change my life. And when that time came, I told everyone, hey, I'm done. I quit. I'm not doing it. And I went to pursue my dreams. So I don't want to hear all this BS about, oh, you can't do it. Sure you can. It may take a year. It may take 2 years. But you can always work an extra job. You can always become more financially responsible and tighten up that budget. Right? You can always save money that will eventually gain you time to pursue what you want to pursue, to start your startup, to change jobs, to be unemployed for a little bit. Right? I just gave you an answer, a solution. But I guarantee, and I don't think our audience is like this, but if the person watching this or listening to this that shot me to feed, I know, no, that's an excuse. You can't do that. BS. Losing mindset. So again, it continued. You're clearly unaware of the great social divide that has taken over. Blah 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 blah. And at this point, I got tired of going back and forth because it was an interesting conversation, and I did thank him for creating some good podcast content. But at this point, it was one of those things where I'm going to attempt to change your mind, especially when I know I'm right. But if you're unwilling to listen and be open to it, then there's no point. I'm just wasting my breath, and I will save it for someone that will. So after the whole thing about you're clearly unaware of the great social divide that had taken over the world starting in about 1913 and culminating now. If you were a trader, you should be aware of the Fed and central banks, right? That is why the French revolt last year and 15 this year. And I just said no excuses, winners win. Because I'm tired of the excuses, right? Every response I give, guess what it's going to be met with? An excuse of why you can't. And then lastly, here's what we talked about. I said, I appreciate the convo. This is going to be an inspired podcast episode. And I hope it is a good episode. It's one that I'm fired up about. And I think it's going to help a lot of people because this is a topic that many of you guys are going through right now. He said, I'd love to see how people weigh in it. And guess what I think? Guess what I think, right? If I were to poll the general public, right? If I were to put out a wide net, the general public, and I would say, do you agree with my mindset of saying winners win? Stop making excuses, right? Don't let your situation define you. Take action and define your situation. Would you agree with that? Or would you agree with the system is rigged? I can't make it work. It's meant to keep people like me back. There's no way I can make it out. What do you think the divide would be? I think 90% of people that took that poll would disagree with me. I think 90% would say, Akil, the system's rigged. It's not meant for people to progress. I'm stuck in this rat race, this dead-end job, and I can't get out, and it's the system's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. It's because I'm black. It's because I'm Hispanic. It's because I'm short. Whatever it may be. Whatever excuse they want to create, that's going to be the reason why they're losing. And I don't mean losing in a negative way, right? I don't, for me, I don't like calling people losers, but it's losers is not based on the situation that you're in. It's based on the mindset that you have while you're in the situation that you're in. You could be in a horrible situation, but if you have a positive mindset, a winner's mindset, you're a winner in my book. And vice versa. You could be in a great situation. You could have been handed down a business by a family member. But if you have a losing mindset, you're still a loser. Same thing like trading, right? Where we talk about good trades. A good trade isn't defined by one that makes profit and one that loses, right? It's defined by, did you follow your rules correctly, the process. And I believe that in life as well. But those of you out there that are continuously making excuses for why you can't do this, why you can't do that, why you're stuck here, you guys are losers. It's a losing mindset, and you need to change. And I think 90% of the general public is going to disagree with me. But here's the thing. We know that when we look at this thing called the comfort zone, the comfort bubble, 90% of people are stuck within that zone. We know that only 10% of people venture out that zone. And I told this guy, I said, if I were to poll my people, my audience, I think 90% would agree. Because 90% of you guys listen to this podcast are either in the 10% or you're aspiring to be in the 10%. Maybe you made that leap years ago. Maybe you're making that leap right now. Maybe you're preparing yourself to make that leap, getting your mind right. But I think 90% of you would agree with me. No excuses. Winners win. I don't care what your situation is. You control your life. You have the ability to take action. Action sometimes comes with consequences. Don't get me wrong. So you need to be smart about it. But if you have the mindset that no matter what you do, you've already lost, I'm sorry, but you've already lost.